Welcome back. This is a calm medieval sleep story. Nothing sudden will happen here. You don't need to follow every detail. Just allow the story to move slowly and let your body rest as the night continues. What they were becoming was not announced by the days. The days simply continued, steady and patient, allowing meaning to settle in slow progression rather than arrive all at once. On the surface, the village remained unchanged, its paths worn smooth by years of passage, its houses standing quietly in their familiar places. And yet, within that constancy, something gentle had begun to take shape. Beneath the same roof, now more time they spent, though the change nothing formal marked. Only for a meal shared at the day's end, it was sometimes for the fire's quiet warmth as night achieved settling. Neither borrowed nor claimed the space felt. Natural it felt, as though always for them to fill it together it had waited. With ease through the small house he moved, careful and unassuming, the stillness his presence did not disturb. To it he added, with the familiar creak of wood, with the fire's soft settling, the sound of his steps blended, less like staying and more like belonging, being there felt. To adjust to this closeness, no need she felt. Not crowded or altered, the shared space felt. Calm it felt, balanced, shaped by mutual awareness. How to move without the other disturbing. How to share silence without letting it feel empty. Each knew. Gently the evenings passed, shaped by routine and rest. Without speaking together, they sat often. Across the room's slow, steady light, the fire casting into quiet distance, the world beyond the walls faded. Sufficient the simple act of being near one another felt complete in its stillness. As its patient flow time continued, faint, the idea of separation grew, distant, no longer part of their awareness. By togetherness without being defined by it, days were shaped. No question existed of what they were becoming. Simply within it they were living. As low the fire burned, and fully the village rested one night, gently against him she leaned, her movements slow and unhurried. Naturally he adjusted, offering warmth and steadiness without thought. That way they remained, evenly breathing around them, the room's quiet wrapping. No urgency in the closeness existed, no sense of a threshold crossing. Like rest rather than change it felt, like the natural continuation of what already had formed. Easily sleep arrived, shaped by trust and calm presence. As it always did, morning followed, softly light arriving, without demand, the world waking. Together they rose and moved through the day, settled, feeling the shared space, unremarkable and deeply right. And so onward the days carried, gently and patiently, allowing further to deepen the bond between them, not through moments of intensity, but through life shared, rest shared, and the quiet certainty of waking and sleeping within the same calm rhythm. Without question, their shared rhythm the village accepted. With the same quiet reliability, days unfolded, and into stillness, the small house they now together occupied settled as though always this arrangement it had known. Warmth the walls held steadily, the fire burned. Complete the space felt. With gentle coordination through mornings and evenings, they moved. Without a word nearby, a cup placed. Just as the other approached, a door opened. No acknowledgement these small gestures required. Naturally they arose, shaped by attention rather than intention. In the quiet certainty of shared life comfort he found. Distant now felt the sense of movement that had once defined him, replaced by something more grounded. No longer like pauses between journeys did the days feel, like home they felt, the same deepening calm she felt. Upon her, the shared routines did not weigh. They lightened her days, giving them a gentle fullness that felt steady and reassuring. Direction life had not changed. More firmly into place it had simply settled. Near the fire, evenings were often spent, low the light, warm the air. Softly of the day sometimes they spoke, at all often they did not speak. Easily between them silence rested, unbroken and complete. Naturally at night rest came, safe the shared space felt, quiet, undisturbed. Gently sleep arrived, shaped by trust and presence rather than thought. Into calm distance, the world beyond the walls faded. There, slow turning the seasons continued. The air achieved shifting. In new ways, light arrived and departed. Yet within the house's steady rhythm and the village's unchanged, their shared life remained, grounded and calm. With a quiet awareness of him beside her, she woke one morning, as softly into the room light filtered. No startle existed, no surprise. Settled, the closeness felt familiar and deeply comforting. When the day called, they rose, unhurried, together into the calm that outside awaited moving. Gently forward time moved, along without insistence carrying them. And within that flow, further the bond between them deepened. No longer just presence shared, but life shared, rooted firmly in patience, trust, and the quiet certainty of belonging. With a gentle sameness that never felt dull, the days passed. Quietly into the house each morning, light entered, on the walls and floor resting before moving on. Calm the air inside remained, shaped by familiar sounds and movement shared. To be arranged, nothing needed. Naturally, its place everything found. Even more attuned to one another's presence they grew. A shift in posture, in movement, a pause, a quiet breath. Without effort, these small things were noticed. Easily between them, awareness flowed, steady and unspoken. No longer like a choice did being together feel. Like the state in which now life existed, it felt. With a sense of ease that required no thought, waking, he found himself. Open but not uncertain, the day ahead felt. Him the shared space grounded, offering a quiet assurance that did not fade as the hours achieved passing. No longer at him the world beyond the village pulled. Already here what he needed was. With the same calm she had always known through her mornings she moved, yet now a deeper warmth it carried. A quiet strength to each familiar task the presence beside her added. Rushed, nothing felt. Lacking, nothing felt. Gently life unfolded, supported by rhythm shared. Together, sometimes they worked, sometimes apart, but constant the connection remained. Even when for a few hours distance separated them, softly the awareness lingered, like a thread that did not need attention to hold. Natural, returning to the shared space, felt, expected, and quietly comforting. Slowly evenings settled, guided by fading light and cooling air. Low the fire burned, steady and patient. Often together they sat, the quiet sharing without needing to fill it. Softened and receded the world outside the walls, leaving only warmth and stillness behind. Without effort, at night, rest came. As a continuation rather than a pause, sleep arrived. Grounding, the shared presence beside them felt safe and deeply familiar. Gentle and indistinct dreams, if they came, were shaped by calm days and untroubled thoughts. Its quiet movement time continued, forward without urgency carrying them. To be defined, the bond between them did not ask expression beyond the life they were already living. It did not seek. Simply it remained, steady and enduring, woven seamlessly into the calm flow of days. And within the village's stillness, within the unbroken rhythm of life shared, ever deeper what together they had become settled, patient, unforced, and quietly whole. Wrapped in its familiar quiet, the village remained, as though how to hold time gently in its hands it had learned. No longer like separate moments did days feel. Like a single continuous presence they felt, flowing softly from morning into night and back again. Nothing of them beyond living within it, the world asked. Even deeper into simplicity their shared life settled. Without words, mornings began, guided by light and habit. Gently evenings closed, shaped by rest and warmth shared. Balanced the space they together occupied felt neither empty nor full, but complete in its calm. How naturally between them responsibility had begun to rest, he noticed. Without discussion, small decisions were made. Before being spoken, needs were understood. Steady and reliable, the sense of care that between them grew felt, offering quiet reassurance rather than demand. The same gentle certainty shaping her days she felt. Her, the shared routines did not confine. They supported her, allowing without tension each moment to unfold. Grounded life felt held within a rhythm that no longer beneath her feet shifted. As their slow turning the seasons continued, subtle changes appeared. Cooler in the mornings, the air grew. Differently in the evenings, light lingered. Quietly the land responded, and as it always had, the village adjusted. Constant within that gradual change, their shared life remained. Comfortably between them, the quiet stretched one evening, as near the fire together they sat. Slowly the flames moved across the room, casting soft patterns. Deep the warmth settled, inviting stillness. Gently against his shoulder, her head she rested, the movement unhurried and natural. Still he remained, offering steady presence without thought. That way for a long while they stayed, evenly breathing, listening to the night's quiet sounds. Deeply familiar the closeness felt, shaped by trust rather than desire. Rest rather than urgency it offered. When arrived sleep, gently it did so without transition. Quietly the night passed, within its calm holding them. As it always did, morning followed, softly light arriving, without insistence the world waking. Together they rose, and into the day moved, intact the shared rhythm, unbroken. Forward time continued, patient and unremarkable, and within that flow, further the bond between them deepened, not through change or declaration, but through responsibility shared, rest shared, and the quiet certainty of a life lived side by side. Still the village remained, steady the world, and gently their days unfolded, onward within a calm that felt enduring, rooted and whole, carrying them. To distinguish themselves from one another no longer needed the days. With the same quiet confidence, each one arrived, gently unfolded, and then back into rest, settled. Within this rhythm, without effort, the village existed, its life shaped by repetition that never felt heavy. With increasing ease through this life together they moved. Now naturally happened what once required attention. Shared tasks, shared pauses, shared silence, seamlessly into their day's flow, all of it blended. No sense of transition anymore existed. The ground beneath everything else togetherness had become. Within him take root a quiet responsibility felt, not as a burden, but as a calm awareness, natural and unforced caring for the shared space, for the rhythm they lived within felt, a sense of purpose that did not need naming. The steadiness of their life together brought the same gentle grounding she felt. To change her, the shared life did not ask. To remain fully herself while resting within something stable and enduring it allowed her. Protective the calm between them felt like shelter that did not close in but held. As the weeks achieved passing, within her body subtle shifts appeared, at first barely noticeable. A quiet tiredness that longer than usual lingered, a deeper need for rest. Of it immediately she did not speak, not out of concern, but because natural it felt, unremarkable, something that would settle in its own time. Without alarm, these small changes he noticed. Instinctively, his presence adjusted, slowing movements, becoming more attentive care. No discussion existed, no naming of possibilities. To reveal what they would, the days they allowed. Near the fire together, they sat one evening, steady and low the warmth against her abdomen. Without thought, her hand she rested. Absent-minded the gesture was, gentle. It he noticed, felt its quiet significance, and without urgency over hers, his hand placed. Soft the contact was, grounding and calm. Like that for a long while they remained, slowly breathing, without interpretation, allowing the moment to exist. Softly the fire crackled, outside the world rested. In the days that followed, the quiet understanding achieved deepening. Subtly, life adjusted. Earlier rest came, further movement slowed. Its rhythm the village continued, without question accepting the change. No announcement existed, no moment of certainty declared aloud. Gently what was forming revealed itself as everything else had. Naturally, the shared life they had built expanded, making space without strain. Calm nights remained. Easily sleep arrived, shaped by trust and presence shared. With the same gentle light, mornings followed, steady and unchanged the world. And within that steady unfolding, within the unbroken calm that village life provided, to take shape, the next chapter of their shared existence began, not suddenly, not dramatically, but with the same patience, stillness, and quiet certainty that had guided them from the very beginning. With the same quiet acceptance it gave to everything else, the subtle change the village received. Allowed for it to be understood, nothing needed to be spoken. Gently the days adjusted, as though slightly to make room the world itself had leaned. At the edges, work softened. Sooner rest arrived. Without effort, time slowed. With increased care through her days she moved, guided not by concern but by instinct. For gentleness her body asked, and without question she listened. Longer grew moments of stillness, more frequent. By the window, sitting as across the floor, light shifted. Near the fire, resting as the evening cooled. Natural, each pause felt necessary and calm. Without hovering close he remained, attentive without urgency. Steadiness rather than reassurance his presence offered. Nearby he rested when she rested. Her pace he matched when slowly she moved. No sense of vigilance existed, only quiet alignment shaped by trust and familiarity. As time achieved passing, clearer became the changes within her, though still unspoken. Her steps underwent softening, her breathing achieved deepening. For patience, the life growing quietly within her, asked, and the days responded more gently now. Warmth to hold the house seemed, calm and protective, feeling the air inside. In stillness together more evenings they spent, burning low the fire, dim and steady the light. At all, nothing often, they said. Around them like a shared blanket silence settled, warm and unremarkable. Lightly against her back his hand rested, offering support without pressure. Into the closeness she leaned, accepting it as part of the quiet rhythm they had built. Easily, sleep arrived, deeper now, shaped by rest rather than exhaustion. Calmly nights passed, undisturbed, often with a sense of quiet fullness rather than urgency. When she woke it was softer the mornings felt, less demanding the world. Its steady life beyond the walls the village continued. Fields received tending, paths received walking. Gently the seasons shifted. Questions no one asked, answers no one needed. Simply life continued, making space as it always had. Softly into the room as light streamed one afternoon. Near the window she sat, lightly over her abdomen, her hands resting. Calm the gesture was, absent of thought. Noticed he and joined her, sitting close, the quiet sharing. Complete the moment felt, grounded, deeply peaceful. For a long while there they remained, the light's movement watching, to the village's distant sounds listening. No sense of anticipation existed, no shaping of what ahead lay. Fully in the present, what mattered existed, steady and whole. Its gentle passage time continued. Naturally, the shared life they had built expanded without strain or disruption. Further, the bond between them deepened, now carrying not only presence shared, but becoming shared, rooted firmly in patience, care, and the enduring stillness of ordinary days. With a deeper quiet now, the days unfolded, as though into a softer rhythm around them the world had settled. Without interruption, its life the village continued, yet slightly more attentive everything felt, more gentle, longer in certain places to linger the light seemed, on walls and floors, resting before moving on. Calmer, even the air felt, carrying warmth without weight. With a steady awareness through her days, she moved, closely listening to her body and to the quiet signals it offered. Without hurry, each step was taken. Fully, each pause was accepted. Attention the life growing within her did not demand. Only for patience and care it asked. and freely those were given. In the same unassuming way he always had, near he remained. In shape, his presence did not change, only in depth. Water he carried, meals prepared, the fire adjusted, all without comment. Naturally, the small acts of care flowed, shaped by understanding shared rather than obligation. Effortless being attentive felt, as though always part of who he was, it had been. About what was happening, little they spoke, not because unimportant it was, but because already understood it was. Unnecessary words felt. Forward the meaning the days themselves carried, through routine and rest, revealing it gently. As the weeks achieved passing, further her movement slowed. A central part of the day rather than a pause within it, rest became. Long hours near the window, seated or by the fire resting she spent, the lights changing, watching. To the house's quiet sounds listening, protective the stillness felt, without pressure enclosing her. Nearby often he sat, sometimes reading, sometimes simply in the same space resting. No acknowledgement their closeness required. Settled it felt, familiar, deeply reassuring. Instinctively, he adjusted when she shifted. Steady and calm, his presence remained when she rested. Softly at night, sleep arrived, deeper and longer than before. Safe, the shared space felt held, undisturbed. Often to the quiet sound of his breathing nearby, when briefly she woke, it was steady and grounding. Easily to rest she returned untroubled. Beyond the house to move, the village continued, gently its life unfolding. By people passed, softly through open windows, voices drifted, in no one pressed. The quiet the world respected, warmly against the walls as the sun rested one afternoon. Within her a subtle movement she felt, faint and gentle, like a quiet stirring. She paused, lightly over her abdomen, her hands resting, slowly breathing. Without alarm, the sensation passed, behind leaving a sense of calm certainty. The change in her expression he noticed, the brief stillness, and without urgency, closer moved. At him she looked, steady and peaceful her gaze, and slightly nodded. No words were spoken, none received need. Naturally, between them the understanding settled, deep and quiet. Together there they remained, within them, allowing the moment to rest. Its slow movement across the room, the light continued. Steadily the fire burned. Calm and unchanged outside the world remained. In its gentle way forward, time continued. Again the shared life they had built expanded, making room without strain. Not distant or uncertain, what ahead lay felt like a continuation of what already existed. It felt patient, steady, and deeply rooted in their day's quiet rhythm. And so onward the days carried, calm and unhurried, within a life shaped by care, trust, and the enduring stillness of being together, holding them. Within its familiar calm to move, the village continued, gently the passing days holding, as though aware that here no place haste had. Beneath the sky, the land rested, steady and unchanged, while slowly within its bounds life unfolded, attention nothing demanded. To be as it was, everything was allowed. Into a deeper rhythm of rest and awareness her days settled. More familiar now, the quiet movements within her body became gently arriving, without disturbance leaving. With patience, each change was met. Carefully she listened, without effort, her pace adjusting. Protective, the stillness that surrounded her felt like a soft boundary that held without closing in. Close he remained, his presence steady and reassuring. The calm, the care he offered did not interrupt, it supported it. Nearby, a chair placed, gently, a blanket adjusted, long enough for her to rest fully, a pause held. No acknowledgement these acts required. Naturally from shared life and quiet understanding they flowed. By stillness their evenings were shaped. Low the fire burned, its warmth steady and comforting. Slowly across the walls, shadows moved, and without urgency the light faded. Often together they sat, lightly, sometimes touching, sometimes simply the same quiet space sharing. Settled, the closeness felt familiar, deeply reassuring. As time achieved passing, Gradually, her body changed, unmistakably, yet without drama. More pronounced the gentle curve of her form became. Slower grew her movements, more deliberate. Without comment note, the village took, as it accepted everything else accepting the change. Life continued, where needed, making space. When cool and calm the air was together, they walked, their steps unhurried. Along the way sometimes they paused, beneath the open sky, quietly resting. Instinctively her pace he matched, offering support without pressing. Balance their shared movement felt, guided by care rather than effort. Deeply and without interruption at night rest arrived. Gently sleep carried them, untroubled by thought or concern. Safe and held the shared space felt, shaped by trust and steady presence. Often to the quiet reassurance of his nearness, when briefly she woke, it was, and easily to rest she returned. Softly through the window as light entered one morning, with a sense of fullness and calm she woke. Settled before it had begun, the day felt. Nearby he was, quietly moving, careful the stillness not to disturb. Briefly their eyes met, a quiet understanding that needed no words sharing. Their gentle flow the days continued. Attention the life growing within her did not demand. Patiently it unfolded, guided by the same calm that everything else in their world shaped. Further, the bond between them deepened, now carrying not only presence shared and care shared, but anticipation shared, quiet, unspoken, and deeply peaceful. And so on time moved, steady and unhurried, allowing within the village's calm rhythm to continue forming life, held safely within patience, trust, and the enduring stillness of ordinary days. More slowly now to breathe the village seemed, as though with the quiet rhythm of their days itself it had aligned. Out nothing stood, urgent nothing felt. In soft layers life unfolded, one gently atop the next resting. Careful but unburdened her movements were, guided by instinct rather than thought. In subtle ways itself, known the life within her made, a gentle heaviness, a deeper need for rest. Moments of still awareness that, like quiet waves, arrived and passed. Without resistance, each change she accepted, around what was needed, allowing the days to shape themselves. In the same steady manner attentive he remained, never to himself drawing focus. Close he stayed when she rested. With her he walked when she walked. Her quiet his presence did not interrupt. It reinforced it, offering calm and reassurance without demand. Long afternoons in stillness they spent, together sitting as slowly across the room light shifted. Sometimes open the window was, softly allowing the village's sounds to drift in. Sometimes distant the world remained, held outside by thick walls and quiet air. In either case, complete the space they shared felt. As their gentle turning the seasons continued, naturally the village adapted. A little more softly around her people spoke. Without question, work was offered. Without ceremony, life made room. No sense of separation from the world existed, only a deeper inclusion within it. Less now they walked, instead choosing near home to rest, beneath familiar shelter, with care and ease. When outside they did step, it was cool and calm, the air around them. When needed his arm he offered, and without hesitation she accepted it. Steady the closeness felt, grounding deeply familiar. Earlier evenings settled, a constant presence the fire became, its warmth low and reliable. Often with her hands folded gently over her abdomen, she rested, slowly breathing, aware of the quiet life within her growing. Nearby he sat, sometimes lightly over hers, his hand placing, without words the stillness sharing. Deeply and without interruption sleep arrived. Long and restorative the nights felt. Often to the quiet presence beside her when she woke it was steady and reassuring. Held the world felt safe and calm. Softly into the room, as pale light filtered one morning, with a subtle sense of readiness she woke, a feeling that once more something had shifted. No urgency existed, no alarm, only a quiet awareness, settled and calm. Still she remained, slowly breathing, to unfold, allowing the moment. Her stillness he noticed, and without speaking, closer, moved. Briefly their eyes met, an understanding shaped by patience and trust sharing. As it always did outside, the day continued, unaware and unhurried. In that quiet moment together, they remained at its own pace, allowing time to move, not distant or uncertain what ahead lay, felt like the next gentle step within a life already well held, it felt. And so around them to rest, the village continued, softly the days unfolding within the calm, unbroken rhythm of life, shared forward, carrying them where forced nothing was, hurried nothing was, and in its own time, everything arrived. Slowly the morning unfolded, as though careful not to disturb the quiet that within the house had settled. The light itself was still, the air was cool and gentle. Outside, as it always had, the village moved, unaware that within its rhythm anything had shifted. Inside, to pause, time seemed, without tension, holding its breath. For a long while still she remained, inwardly rather than outwardly listening. Softly the sensation that had woken her returned, steady and calm. No urgency in it existed, no sharpness, only a quiet certainty, deep and patient, asking to be acknowledged rather than acted upon. Slowly she breathed, as it was allowing the moment to exist. Close he stayed, his presence grounding and unhurried. To move or speak he did not rush, simply he remained, attentive in the quiet way he always had been. When finally toward him she turned, calm her expression was, low and steady her voice, as a few simple words she spoke. No fear in them existed, only understanding. Gently around that understanding itself the day adjusted. Further movements slowed, sounds underwent softening. More carefully warmth to hold the house seemed, as though aware of what within its walls was unfolding. Calmly he moved, water preparing without hurry, the space arranging, guided by instinct and care rather than thought. She rested, without counting them, allowing the hours to pass. Like slow waves, the sensations within her came and went, followed by stillness, each one. Between them, deeply she breathed, naturally into its work, her body settling. Forced nothing was, rushed nothing was. Its steady life beyond the walls, the village continued. Faintly through the air, voices drifted, footsteps passed and moved on, did not intrude the world. The quiet it respected. As the light shifted, and gently toward afternoon, the day leaned, calm and steady. The room remained. Beside her, he stayed, presence rather than direction offering. When needed, a hand held. When it felt right, a quiet word spoken. Mostly silence existed, deep, supportive, unbroken, its shape time lost. Without being measured, hours passed. Patiently the body's work continued, guided by rhythms older than thought. Focused inward she remained, supported by the steady nearness that never wavered. And then without drama, without sudden change, further the quiet within the room deepened. As gently as everything else had, the moment arrived. The space, a soft cry filled, small and brief, the silence breaking only to back into it again settle. Did not shift the world, did not pause the village. And yet, within that small house, quietly in their care, something new rested. With careful hands the child he held, his movements slow and reverent. She watched, tired but peaceful, gradually easing her breathing. Warm the room felt, held complete. Quickly the child settled, soft and even, the sound of breathing, carefully wrapped, close placed. Between them the small life rested, calm and untroubled. Outside, its gentle passage, the day continued. Inside, time rested. In that quiet space together, they remained, the three of them, without words, without urgency. To be said, nothing needed. In the same way everything else had, what had arrived did so, patiently, naturally, and deeply at peace. And as approached evening and once more light softened, Its steady rhythm, the village continued, now within it holding a life newly arrived, already gently woven into the calm, enduring flow of ordinary days. In a deeper quiet after the day had passed, the house rested, as though a new stillness the walls themselves had learned. Gently from the room light faded behind, leaving a soft glow from the fire that low and steady burned. Outside, its familiar rhythm the village continued, unchanged and patient, as it always had, the night holding. With a calm weariness she rested slowly back into itself, her body easing a little more freely now each breath arrived, into a rhythm shaped by relief and rest settling. Complete the work she had done was, and gratefully the stillness her body accepted, earned the quiet felt, deserved, and deeply peaceful. Carefully through the room he moved, his steps slow, attentive. Close the child rested, warmly wrapped, soft and even breathing. The fire he adjusted, the light lowered, calm and undisturbed, ensured the space remained. Deliberate every movement was, guided by care rather than thought. For a long while without speaking together, they sat. Fuller now the presence between them felt, with something new yet entirely familiar layered. Briefly the child stirred, then again settled. By warmth and steady nearness comforted. Gently the three of them the room held, as though always meant to it had been. Without urgency, night deepened. Further outside the village quieted, one by one sounds fading, until only the softest traces remained. Inside, steady the calm held. Not all at once sleep arrived, but gradually, like a tide easing in. Deeply she slept, her rest unbroken. A little longer awake he remained, the gentle rise and fall of breath watching, the room's stillness, the quiet certainty of what had been formed. No sense of awe that demanded expression existed, no rush of feeling that needed words, only a deep, steady awareness of belonging. When finally reached him sleep, softly it did so. Without disturbance the night passed. Within its quiet them all holding, gently morning arrived. Without insistence, into the room light filtering. Slowly the world woke. The child stirred, then again rested, calm and untroubled. With a sense of quiet fullness she woke, her body tired but at ease. Nearby he was, as steady and present as ever. Without ceremony the day began. Water was warmed, the fire received tending. Gently into its familiar rhythm the house moved, now around a new presence that felt already known shaped. Its life beyond the village continued, fields tended, paths walked, softly on the air voices carried. Changed nothing had, and yet everything had. Without strain, life had expanded, naturally making room, just as it always had. And so on the days moved, unhurried and calm, within the same steady rhythm that everything before had guided forward, the three of them carrying, patient, grounded, and deeply at peace within the enduring stillness of ordinary life. Into a new quiet the days that followed settled, one that softer but no less steady felt. Without effort the house adapted, as though always how to hold this additional presence it had known. Gentler sounds became, slower movements, longer pauses, disrupted nothing felt. Naturally its place everything found. Often the child slept, light and even breathing, in the warmth of familiar arms and steady surroundings resting. When awake, brief and calm the moments were, filled with simple needs that without hurry were met. Around this small life the rhythm that formed was unremarkable in its simplicity and deeply reassuring. Gradually she recovered, without being rushed, her strength returning. A little more ease each day brought, a little more movement, guided by care rather than expectation. Often the child she held, her touch gentle and instinctive, her presence calm. No sense of learning existed. Like remembering something long known it felt. Close he remained, without distinction, each quiet task sharing. Water was carried, food prepared, the fire tended. Without hesitation he responded when the child stirred. Without question, he provided it when rest was needed. Naturally, the care between them flowed, unspoken and balanced. In its own quiet way, the new life the village acknowledged. A soft greeting. Near the door, a small offering left. Instinctively, voices lowered. The calm, no celebration broke. Longer than needed, no attention lingered. Life continued without ceremony, making space. When mild the air was slow walks they took. Securely the child wrapped, held close. Familiar the paths felt, unchanged. Steady beneath their feet the land remained. As it always had them, the village accepted, within its rhythm holding them. By deeper stillness, now evenings were shaped. Low the fire burned, softly the room glowed. Together they sat, between them the child resting, full and unbroken the silence. Gently fatigue arrived, not as exhaustion, but as a natural closing of the day. In quiet waves at night, rest came. Lighter sleep was by brief moments of waking broken, yet always easily returned. Calm the shared space remained, held by trust and steady presence. Strained, no moment felt. Too long, no thought lingered. Without urgency, morning followed. Softly light arrived. Its gentle movement, the world resumed. Another day began, shaped not by plans or expectations, but by simple needs and quiet care. And so continued life, unremarkable, steady, deeply peaceful. Now something new the bond between them held, yet unchanged in its essence. Still on presence built it was, patience and stillness shared, now naturally extended to include the quiet life, safely between them resting. As it always had, forward time moved, unhurried and kind, together within the enduring calm of ordinary days carrying them. The passage of time wasn't something that could be measured in numbers. Instead, it made itself known through subtle sensations. Weeks dissolved gently into one another, giving way to entire seasons that layered themselves quietly over what had come before. Outwardly, the village held its familiar shape, but the life contained within its boundaries continued its slow expansion, never announcing its presence. At first, the child's growth was so gradual it seemed almost invisible. Most hours disappeared into deep, untroubled sleep that was interrupted only by fleeting, wakeful moments. These brief periods of consciousness passed without disruption before settling back into rest. The faint sounds that accompanied these intervals wove themselves seamlessly into the atmosphere of the home, becoming just another note in its ongoing conversation. Her movements carried increasing confidence as her body regained its former strength. The careful rationing of energy that had defined earlier days became less necessary, though a gentle quality remained threaded through everything she did. When she held the child now, her body moved with natural assurance. Instinct guided her rather than conscious effort. The connection they shared felt as though it had existed from the beginning, requiring no explanation or justification. His participation in caring for the child made no distinction between roles. No invisible boundaries divided their responsibilities. The child settled into his embrace with the same ease found in hers. The grounding quality of his presence continued unchanged, providing the same quiet stability that had always characterized the life they built together. These days asked nothing unprecedented of him. They simply allowed what had always been true to continue expressing itself. The child's awareness of the surrounding world emerged in small, unhurried increments. Eyes would open and linger on sources of light, on patterns of movement, on shapes that had become familiar. Tiny hands would extend outward before relaxing once more. Every development arrived on its own terms, carrying neither urgency nor expectation. The unfolding of life followed its own internal rhythm. This gradual expansion was absorbed by the village with the same naturalness it showed toward changing seasons. Footsteps along well-worn paths moved at a more measured tempo. Words of greeting were spoken in softer tones. The world made its accommodations silently, creating space as it had. always done. Afternoons often found them gathered near the entrance to their home or positioned by the window, the child resting in the space between them. Sunlight traveled slowly through the interior, tracking time's movement without drawing focus to itself. Quiet words passed between them on some occasions. More often, they simply existed together without speech. Even in silence, their shared space felt abundant and undiminished. The progression of years happened without anyone taking count. The child discovered how to sit upright, then how to stand, then how to move forward on small feet. Each milestone arrived deliberately without rushing. Sounds of laughter would emerge softly before fading back into quietness. The house embraced all of these moments with gentle acceptance, its essential calm never wavering. The shape of their shared existence didn't transform. Instead, it acquired greater depth. What began as simple coexistence evolved into accumulated history built gradually through unremarkable days. The bond connecting them needed no verbal acknowledgement. It revealed itself in synchronized movements, in comfortable stillness, in the effortless way time moved around their presence. Through the continued rotation of seasons, the child absorbed the village's rhythm just as they had done before. Small hands began learning which paths to follow. Small feet found their way along ancient stone. This emerging life was received without hesitation, welcomed fully by the world around it. Their evenings provided reliable constancy. Fire burned with low intensity. Shadows shifted with patient slowness. The child rested in comfortable proximity, undisturbed and content. The three of them sat together, enveloped by the same enduring stillness that had shaped everything preceding this moment. Life persisted in this manner, ordinary yet lasting, profoundly tranquil. It wasn't defined by significant markers or definitive conclusions, but by uninterrupted continuation, by simple presence, by the quiet assurance of an existence lived with intention, gentleness, and togetherness. Time pressed forward without haste, carrying them along within the peaceful, uninterrupted cadence of everyday moments where completion existed, independent of finality. The child's existence became so thoroughly integrated into the household's rhythm that recalling its absence became impossible. Subtle movements, hushed sounds, and gentle patterns filled each day without disturbing its fundamental serenity. Rather than growing noisier, the house developed a warmer quality, acquiring greater steadiness as though it had discovered a more profound state of repose. Growth proceeded gradually, unmarked by clear demarcations. Days merged seamlessly into their successors, and within that smooth progression, new capabilities emerged with the ease of natural breathing. Walking gained stability. Language arrived in measured increments, employed economically and without pressure. Interest in the surrounding world manifested through quiet exploration, fingertips tracing known textures, eyes tracking beams of light as they traveled across floorboards. She observed these developments with unhurried attentiveness, never imposing timelines or evaluating advancement. Each phase received full acknowledgement before the subsequent one made its appearance. Her attention remained constant, directed by intuition and forbearance. The child leaned against her with complete security, molded by the same tranquility that had enveloped their existence from its inception. His contribution to these unfolding days carried the same rooted quality he'd always provided. Walking beside the child, his pace moderated organically to accommodate smaller strides. Instruction and correction were absent. Only peaceful companionship existed, through observation and through existing within calmness, rather than being steered toward alternative states. The child absorbed what mattered. The village incorporated the developing child as it incorporated all things, with understated recognition and no formal acknowledgement. Known faces populated the child's expanding awareness, Known pathways provided security beneath tentative steps. Village life's familiar cadence enclosed the family organically, delivering stability that imposed no restrictions. The rotation of seasons maintained its unhurried pace. The child became acquainted with the sensation of sun-warmed days and cool twilight hours, with the rainfall settling gently on rooftops, with mornings' profound quiet when fog hung low and thick. These encounters arrived without verbal interpretation, comprehended through direct experience rather than explanation. Their evenings remained the emotional center of collective existence. They assembled near the hearth as had become customary, the child positioned between them or somewhere nearby, peaceful and composed. Firelight moved with gentle fluctuation, casting shadows that traveled slowly along vertical surfaces. Sometimes the child surrendered to sleep early, sometimes small hands engaged in quiet play. The silence retained its fullness, remaining undisturbed. Years accumulated in this fashion, their passage unregistered and uncalculated. The child gained height and physical strength, developing more confident footing. The house absorbed these transformations without evidence of strain. Their collective existence didn't push outward seeking expansion. Instead, it pressed inward, establishing itself more securely in its chosen foundation. Conversations about what lay ahead didn't occur. Extended reflection on what had passed remained infrequent. The immediate present proved adequate, whole in its continuous quiet flow. The connection binding them together had transformed into the bedrock supporting everything else. Reliable, persistent, unexamined, the succession of days persisted, untroubled and uninterrupted, given form by collective living, collective caregiving, and collective stillness. Time flowed gently through their existence, leaving behind no harsh transitions, carrying them forward within a life that required nothing beyond patient, peaceful coexistence. Time's gentle progression left no distinct markers in its wake. The child integrated into daily routines with the same naturalness the village itself had. Integrated into its surrounding landscape. Physical growth came slowly, strength followed at its own measured pace, movements acquired greater certainty while maintaining their unhurried quality. The tranquility that had characterized the earliest moments persisted steadily beneath subsequent developments. Movement through the village became more independent now, with small steps retracing known routes, always remaining within observable range, always within protective distance. Curiosity expressed itself not through restless energy, but through focused attention. Stones received examination. Leaves were rotated in diminutive palms. Engagement with the world proceeded carefully, absent of fear, shaped by the surrounding stillness. Her observation maintained the same patient quality that had always defined her presence. Maternal care didn't diminish as growth continued. Rather, it shifted its configuration, becoming less concentrated, more expansive, creating room while maintaining essential support. Her actions retained their calmness, her voice its softness, her focus its steadiness. The bond they shared didn't loosen its hold, it expanded carefully, accommodating development without introducing separation. He maintained his reliable presence, matching pace with the child's unhurried progress. Instruction emerged only when circumstances demanded it. No compulsion existed to correct or redirect. Learning occurred through watching, through existing, within the quiet constancy that surrounded everyday activities. The model presented was one of composure, patience, and confidence in time's natural progression. The village continued providing its encompassing rhythm. Familiar individuals offered gentle greetings to the child. Pathways delivered security beneath growing feet. The realm extending beyond village boundaries remained remote and ill-defined, inconsequential. What existed in immediate proximity proved sufficient. With the forward movement of years, the child began contributing to modest responsibilities, gently guided rather than pressured. Light objects were carried. Proximity was maintained during tasks. Education occurred through participation rather than imposed expectations. The cadence of collective existence absorbed these modifications smoothly without generating disruption. Essential qualities of their evenings remained constant. Fire maintained its low, steady burn. Shadows pursued their slow journey along interior walls. Sometimes the child listened with quiet attention. Sometimes sleep arrived before day fully concluded. The surrounding stillness embraced everything, gently, allowing closure without requiring effort. Their shared existence felt whole in its uncomplicated nature. No sense of striving existed. No attraction toward alternative possibilities. The connection between them, now enriched with years of accumulated presence, had established itself as fundamental infrastructure. Naming it proved unnecessary. Questioning it never occurred. Time continued its patient, unremarkable advance. The child experienced growth. Days completed their cycles. The village maintained its steadiness. Within that enduring calm, their collective life revealed itself quietly, sustained by trust, presence, and the gentle certainty that transformation wasn't required for wholeness to persist. Each passing year wove the child more completely into the village's established rhythm. Known paths received increasingly confident footsteps, yet haste remained absent. Engagement with the world carried calm inquisitiveness, molded by the steady existence surrounding it. Nothing accelerated the child's progression. Nothing imposed restraint. Development proceeded quietly, mirroring seasonal transitions in its naturalness. Mornings frequently commenced with modest rituals, performed collectively, a straightforward meal, a still moment near the threshold. The child absorbed more through listening than speaking, learning each day's contours through observation rather than explicit teaching. The house's characteristic quietness held firm, embracing each action gently. Her guidance operated through patience rather than prescription. Her presence delivered comfort without imposing control, maintaining nearness while permitting space. The bond connecting her to the child conveyed security and permanence, established not merely through proximity but through trust that had never faced interrogation. His steadiness provided grounding for both the child and their collective existence. When tasks occupied his attention, the child frequently remained in close proximity, observing with quiet focus, absorbing rhythm rather than specific technique. No pressure existed to assume any particular form. Simple presence satisfied all requirements. The village persisted, externally unchanged, yet subtly influenced by the life developing within its embrace. Elderly residents acknowledged the child. With gentle nods during encounters, those living nearby offered reserved smiles. Recognition of the child came not through speech or accomplishment, but through calm presence, through fitting naturally into available spaces. Through the year's gentle passage, the family established even firmer roots in their location. The house now contained accumulated memories, stacked softly atop one another. Laughter had made appearances before departing. Silence had acquired deeper resonance. Both states felt equally organic, equally acceptable. Evenings provided their reliable anchor point. Fire burned with subdued intensity. Air settled into stillness. The child rested somewhere nearby, sometimes listening, sometimes already claimed by sleep. They sat as they always had, the external world drawing gently closed around them. Their sense of unity felt complete, defined not by alteration but by persistent continuity. Time made no demands for retrospection. It simply advanced, patient and benevolent. The child gained strength. Their existence gained profundity. The village retained its stability. Within that lasting calm, within the continuous rhythm of unremarkable days, their collective life kept unfolding, quietly, gently, requiring number resolution, held securely within presence, trust, and the peaceful assurance of togetherness. Years completed their cycles without seeking attention. Time moved as it always had throughout the village, quietly and absent ceremony, leaving no sharp boundaries behind. The child's growth aimed toward nothing specific, instead integrating into already existing life, gently shaped by familiarity and composure. Simple movements populated each day, walking adjacent to cultivated fields, sitting near the entrance as illumination shifted across earth, listening to village sounds without needing comprehension. Through presence rather than instruction, the child learned the world's rhythm, absorbing steadiness before inquisitiveness, patience before longing. She monitored these changes with the same quiet attentiveness that had always characterized her approach. Her guidance maintained its subtlety, communicated through demonstration rather than language. When the child paused, she mirrored that pause. When the child advanced, she remained accessible, permitting space without creating distance. The bond between them adjusted organically, expanding without experiencing weakening. He continued sharing days with identical grounded composure. As growth occurred, his presence functioned as a quiet reference, dependable and constant. Correction proved unnecessary, urgency to mold behavior non-existent. Calmness invited reciprocal calmness. Stillness became stillness's own instructor. The village extended complete acceptance to the developing child. Familiar individuals became integrated into daily experience. The land itself acquired the quality of being known, trusted. No perception of separation existed between the child and the surrounding environment. Everything belonged together without requiring effort. Seasonal rotation maintained its unhurried tempo. The child learned to recognize colder beginnings to days and warmer conclusions to afternoons. Wind's voice moving through foliage, the profound quiet accompanying snowfall, and spring's gradual return to vitality. Each transition met neither enthusiasm nor resistance. This was simply reality's nature. Evenings preserved their essential character. Fire burned with low steadiness. Shadows progressed slowly along vertical surfaces. Sometimes the child listened quietly to the dwelling's soft utterances. Sometimes sleep arrived early, natural and unforced. Stillness invariably returned, holding days. Conclusion gently. Their collective existence didn't progress toward any end point. It deepened inward, becoming increasingly settled, increasingly whole. What they had constructed together didn't rely on significant moments or formal statements. It rested upon continuity, upon shared presence, upon days lived fully. Without requiring measurement, time advanced, patient and kind. The child experienced growth. The village persisted. Within that enduring calm, their life together continued, revealing itself quietly, steadily, without termination, held within the peaceful rhythm of ordinary days, requiring nothing additional to feel complete. The child arrived at an age where the world revealed slightly broader dimensions, though this occurred without urgency or insistence. Steps now carried farther from the entrance, yet never beyond the comfortable boundary of what felt recognized and secure. The village maintained its proximity, its pathways familiar, its sounds gentle and comforting. Understanding of time's passage came to the child not through numerical tracking, but through felt experience. Days growing longer, nights growing shorter. The atmospheric shift preceding rainfall's arrival. These patterns established themselves naturally in awareness, requiring no verbal explanation. Life disclosed itself slowly, and the child received these disclosures calmly. She maintained her nearby position, her presence steady, delivering guidance while avoiding direction. When questions emerged, responses came softly. When silence re-established itself, it received permission to remain. Her care avoided applying pressure. It provided support resembling the land, itself solid and patient beneath every footfall. He continued offering his presence in the same quiet manner, walking beside rather than in front. The child frequently mirrored his movements, acquiring knowledge through observation rather than instruction. Work's rhythm, rest's rhythm, stillness's rhythm, all absorbed gently without expectations of mastery or performance. The house accommodated these years with ease, Its walls now carried increased memory, though nothing received marking or naming. Sounds of quiet play join woods' familiar creaking and fire's low murmuring. Even so, the prevailing calm remained intact. Nothing overwhelmed the stillness, it simply adapted, generating room. The village continued delivering its steady embrace. Elderly individuals greeted the child with soft recognition. Neighbors spoke gently, permitting space. No one hastened growth, no one evaluated progress. Life revealed itself at its traditional pace. Evenings remained their constant element. Fire burned low, light softened. The child rested nearby, sometimes listening, sometimes lost in quiet. Contemplation, sometimes asleep before day fully closed. They sat together, as always had been their pattern, the silence full and welcoming. Time moved forward without encountering resistance. The child gained strength and assurance. Their life gained depth and settledness. Nothing required addition, nothing required removal. Within the village's enduring calm, within the unbroken rhythm of shared days, their life continued, steady, patient, and complete in its simplicity, held gently by presence, trust, and the quiet certainty that everything occupied exactly its proper position. A quiet confidence grew within the child, shaped not by instruction or imposed expectations, but by years immersed in steady presence. Movements acquired greater certainty, steps became more deliberate, yet rushing remained absent. The world received calm curiosity, not as territory requiring conquest or interrogation, but as environment for simple existence. Days traced familiar patterns. Morning illumination entered the dwelling softly. Simple responsibilities filled hours without generating strain. The child participated naturally, learning through action, through observation, through inclusion that avoided pressure. Each modest responsibility materialized when readiness existed, accepted without accompanying burden. She continued delivering guidance through example rather than verbal instruction. Her movements retained their calmness, her attention its steadiness. When the child showed hesitation, she waited. When the child moved ahead, she remained accessible. The bond between them had achieved strength. Through trust rather than proximity alone, it permitted space while avoiding the creation of distance. He remained a quiet anchor point, his presence unchanged in its steadiness. The child frequently reflected his pace, his stillness, his patience. Lessons transferred not through explanation but through time spent together. Life's rhythm itself functioned as educator. The village held all of this gently. Familiar individuals aged slowly. New individuals appeared without generating disturbance. Paths showed increased wear, not from haste but from years of steady passage. The land maintained its consistency, offering continuity that required no attention. Seasonal rotation continued its slow progression. The child learned to anticipate them not through calendar consultation, but through sensation. Airs cooling, shadows lengthening, warmth's return. Each shift received quiet welcome, permitted to settle before the next arrived. Evenings maintained their essential spirit. Fire burned low. The house rested. Sometimes the child spoke softly about minor observations. Sometimes silence filled available space completely. Both received equal welcome. The prevailing calm held everything without making distinctions. Time moved forward, patient and unmarked. The child approached adulthood without abruptly abandoning childhood. Their collective existence didn't advance toward termination. It deepened, establishing firmer roots with each passing year. Within the village's enduring stillness, within the unbroken flow of ordinary days, their shared life continued, quiet, grounded, and whole, held gently by presence, patience, and the peaceful certainty that transformation wasn't necessary for completeness to persist. The child reached a period of quiet transition, one announcing itself not through sudden alteration, but settling gently over days like a fresh layer of illumination. The world conveyed slightly broader dimensions now, though it retained identical calmness. Village paths remained familiar, fields unchanged. the house steady and warm. Nothing had shifted in physical form, yet understanding acquired greater depth regardless. Independent movement increased, with longer intervals spent alone, without experiencing separation, sitting beneath trees, observing clouds' slow migration, walking familiar paths without guidance, trusting earth beneath each footfall. These moments didn't pull the child away from family. They extended shared life outward, providing it additional breathing room. She observed this development without anxiety, her presence remaining constant. Tight holding proved unnecessary. Trust had been constructed patiently through years of shared stillness. Permitting space felt as natural as offering closeness. Her composure didn't waver, it expanded. He continued standing quietly at the center of this expanding rhythm. When the child returned from wandering, no questions emerged. No accounting was demanded. Presence received acknowledgement through a glance, a nod, a shared silence. The connection maintained its firmness without requiring reinforcement. The house adapted as it always had. Movements, sounds came and departed. Silence returned with ease. Walls held everything without making distinctions. Fire burned low each evening, delivering warmth that felt familiar and lasting. The village, too, shifted subtly. The child no longer received perception solely as small. Recognition now existed, quiet respect offered without ceremony, greetings altered in tone while maintaining warmth. Life continued generating space without drawing attention to the process. Evenings remained their quiet anchor point. They assembled as they always had, the rhythm unchanged at its foundation. Sometimes the child spoke softly about thoughts formed slowly, shaped by observation rather than urgency. Sometimes words failed to appear entirely. Both received equal acceptance. Time advanced without applying pressure. Days didn't hurry the child toward anything. They permitted becoming to unfold at its inherent pace. What emerged defied definition through milestones, instead characterized by steadiness, by a sense of belonging that didn't weaken with distance. Their life continued, calm and unbroken. The child experienced growth. The parents aged gently. The village retained its steadiness. Nothing ended. Nothing began abruptly. Within the enduring rhythm of ordinary days, their shared life flowed onward, quiet, patient, and whole, held securely by trust, presence, and time's deep peace when allowed to move as it wished. A quieter depth characterized the child's days as understanding continued forming beneath the surface. Thoughts arrived slowly now, shaped by observation rather than urgency. Questions emerged infrequently, and when they materialized, they were held gently, not always receiving vocal expression. The world conveyed neither confusion nor demands. It felt steady, something requiring listening rather than solving. Solitary time grew longer, yet never resembled distance. Sitting near fields as wind traveled through grass, walking along familiar paths while the village rested behind. These moments returned naturally to shared life, bringing with them deeper calm. Nothing pulled the child away. Everything flowed back. She remained present in the same quiet manner, her awareness never withdrawing even as space widened. No fear existed in permitting independence. Trust had long since replaced uncertainty. The bond between them had acquired flexibility, able to stretch without experiencing strain, to hold without tightening. His steady presence persisted, unaltered by the passage of years. Though his movements had acquired slight slowness, his composure maintained its firmness. During quiet work, the child frequently sat in close proximity, participating in the stillness without disrupting it. Words passed between them only when circumstances required. Silence persisted as their shared language. The house bore time's weight with gentleness. Its walls had witnessed numerous seasons, countless peaceful evenings, abundant moments of collective repose. Each night, fire continued burning low. As evening approached, light continued softening. The familiar rhythm experienced no fading. Instead, it deepened. The village advanced as it always had. New children materialized. Older individuals aged and grew more subdued. Paths remained worn smooth through steady passage. Life persisted without emphasis, accepting each transformation as component of its extended, patient flow. At their foundation, evenings remained unchanged. They assembled together, sometimes in closer proximity, sometimes with increased space, separating them, yet always within identical shared calm. The child, now advancing toward an adulthood, rested comfortably within that space, neither restrained nor accelerated. Time imposed no hurry upon them. It demanded neither decisions nor conclusions. It simply advanced, carrying everything gently along its current. The family aged collectively, quietly, absent drama. Their existence didn't construct itself toward a moment of completion. It existed fully within each day as it arrived. Within the village's enduring stillness, within the continuous rhythm of shared days, their life persisted, soft, patient, and whole, held gently by trust, presence, and time's deep peace when permitted to pass without resistance. Even as they became more assured, the child's footsteps grew quieter. A softness characterized the way movement now encountered the world, a patience acquired not through instruction but through years immersed in calm. Days applied no pressure for answers. They permitted understanding to arrive slowly, shaped by experience rather than conscious thought, in subtle ways. The house conveyed greater spaciousness, not because anything within it had transformed, but because space received different utilization now. Silence extended somewhat further. Stillness persisted longer. When the child returned from solitary intervals, the return felt natural, anticipated, unremarkable. Nothing required explanation. Presence proved sufficient. She observed these shifts with the same steady attention she'd always delivered. Her care no longer assumed guidance's shape alone. It had transformed into quiet companionship, an understanding that didn't require proximity to maintain strength. The bond connecting them rested comfortably within. Trust, flexible and lasting, he remained largely the same, his calm presence continuing to anchor their shared existence. His movements carried greater slowness now, though, never heaviness. Without thinking, the child frequently matched that pace, absorbing patience's value simply through proximity. The rhythm of work and rest continued teaching without words. The village aged gently in their surroundings. Some familiar individuals grew more subdued, others vanished without ceremony. New voices entered, the rhythm softly, accepted without interrogation. Paths persisted, worn smooth through years of steady passage. The land itself conveyed unchanging quality, offering continuity without requesting notice. Seasonal rotation continued its slow cycle. The child came to recognize them not solely by sensation but through memory, how air felt during previous occurrence, how light settled upon fields, how evenings drew gently closed. Time was comprehended not as something departing, but as something layering itself quietly upon what already existed. Evenings maintained their position as quiet center. Fire burned low, the house rested. Sometimes they spoke softly about minor matters, observations, moments, thoughts requiring time to form. Frequently they abstained from speech entirely. The silence remained welcoming, never hollow. Years accumulated in this fashion, uncounted and unmarked. The child advanced closer to leaving childhood behind, though accomplishing this without abruptness. Adulthood failed to arrive as a threshold requiring crossing, but as gradual deepening of awareness. The family remained intact, not through tight holding, but by permitting space without separation. Time continued onward, gentle and patient. Nothing concluded, nothing needed to commence. Life flowed steadily within the village's calm, carrying